Hey, come run Western blots with me.
Now, you're wondering what's a Western by now. Western is a molecular technique used to detect a specific protein and basically like a mixture of proteins, like these. Now, our first step is to determine the concentration. We typically do it by doing a BCA assay. Now, once we determine our concentration, we can prep the samples.
Let's talk proteins. Now, proteins are typically in their quaternary structure. One of our main goals here is to put them back in their primary structure. This will be done by heating them at 95 Celsius for about 5 minutes and adding a loading dye, which contains 10% SDS. This step will get them back in their primary structure as well as coat the protein with a uniform negative charge. We can finally load our samples. Our first thing will be our protein molecular weight marker. This marker will be used as a reference. It will be used to identify your expected band based on the molecular weight. The rest of your samples can be loaded in your desired order. Once all samples are loaded, we'll apply a current. This will separate the proteins based on their mass. Lighter proteins will run faster, while heavier proteins will run slower. The next step is to get your gel out and open it. So we're going to cut all the wells and try to cut the gel out. This step is done with love. Now it's time to assemble our transfer sandwich. The most important thing is to put it on the right orientation, otherwise you might lose your protein. The transfer technique uses an electric field to elute the protein from the gel into the transfer membrane, so you have to make sure it's on the right spot. Make sure there's no bubbles. This is how the setup typically looks. Now we're gonna be running it for 90 volts for 2 hours in the cold room. You know everything's going according to plan if you start seeing bubbles.
Our next step is to block our membrane.
This is done to stop any non-specific binding from happening. Our last step of the day will be to incubate with primary antibodies overnight in 4 Celsius. The second day starts with washes with TBST. A secondary antibody is later on added, which will be incubated for 1 hour, followed by more TBST washes. And for the last step of the process will be to read and analyze our gels. As a protein marker, we use the chameleon dual, which is highlighted here in this area. I have 4 samples in my gel. What you're looking at is my actin band, which serves as my loading control. Now the other band on top is my gene of interest, which typically runs about 100 kb. Now for my particular case, the only thing I'm checking is the presence or absence of this particular gene. As you can see, sample 1 and 3 are present, while 2 and 4 are absent. The software allows you to do many things. You can increase and decrease contrast as well as brightness, and it gives you the ability to even see your Western in different colors. The software also allows you to quantify your data. Thanks. That concludes our tutorial and hope you had as much fun as I did.